to 10 a.m. at the Barnstead Town Hall for corrections and additions to the voter checklist. Change of party affiliation will also be accepted at this time. So if you need to check on your voter registration, you'll need to do Saturday. I'd like to thank the Oscar Foss Memorial Library and library trustees for hosting this event. Also, thank you to the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts for helping me set up. And friends of the library, I guess, that's what we call for refreshments. There's a few rules. They're pretty easy. The candidate, and I get to call you because I have the checklist. The candidate has 3 minutes to speak and say why they are running for a position. Then the audience has 5 minutes for questions and answers for that candidate. Candidates have been grouped by position and then randomly selected. Please remember that these folks are your neighbors and friends, and they have put themselves on the ballot to help the town of Barnstead. Remember to treat all candidates with respect. And after all the candidates are done, we have a refreshment break, and then we can come back and have more questions and answers. So, with that, we're going to start off with School District Clerk Tim E.
That's me.
This is for your School District Clerk position. Stand up, Steve.
Okay, okay, now I'll sit down. This is a one-day thing, normally, where I just take notes at the school meeting. And so that's basically, according to the state law, somebody who's not employed by the school district has to do that. Somebody from the school district can be appointed, and that's the way things happen. But I didn't know that when I first, about 5 years ago, I first ran. And I got elected. So I've been getting elected every year. And so if you wish to have somebody else have another process or something like that, please, don't go for it. But I do enjoy doing it. I do enjoy the getting to know people, because sometimes I don't know all the people, and I don't always do it the way that other people do it. As far as I know, it doesn't have a stance. So that's where I stand at this point. If you have questions on this, please let me know. I know people do read what I'm thinking, and I'm thankful for that. Everyone has that. What would I say that? Not everybody gets that. I mean, they go on ahead and see the notes and everything. Oh, well, that's fine. So I'm kind of glad to see that people who read it and they do ask questions. And so that's all I've got to say, unless somebody else wishes for me to say something else.
Okay, Tim. Any questions for Tim regarding the school district clerk position?
Yeah. District clerk, he takes the minutes, please.
Okay. So next we will move on to school board. And it looks like Randy, right? Okay, I didn't have you on the list, but I'm gonna start with you.
Okay. No problem. Hi everyone, my name is Brandy Pelletier. A little bit about myself first. My husband and I have lived in Barnstead for 16 years now. We have a daughter, Ava. She's a senior. We have a son, Dylan, who's a freshman, attending Prospect Mountain High School. I started volunteering when they were little at the PTO at Barnstead Elementary School. I my son, he was younger before he got to the competitive level of sports, but enjoyed volunteering at that position as well. I joined.
You have just a little here.
The microphone. I joined the BYBSA board and still serve there down for the baseball softball organization in town. More recently, I volunteered and joined the Booster Club at Prospect Mountain as well. Career-wise, I'm currently a technical team manager for Lincoln Financial, and prior to that, exciting things ahead, some more noticeable changes such as the expansion project at BES, which would not have been possible without the state aid and our voters, and especially those that served on the Space Needs Committee, thank you. But also open enrollment opportunities at the high school and the development of a K-8 alternative school, both serving not only as creating a pathway for families to choose what education might fit their child best, but also serving as a revenue stream for our towns. Regarding items such as curriculum and establishing teacher mentoring at all schools, we're making progress. And while this change doesn't happen overnight, it feels like we're moving forward, and that's a good thing. What I love about our community is we're trying to offer an inclusive, equitable learning environment for all kids. I'd like to continue to support the prepare students not just for tests, but for life. Programs such as the Outdoor Club, where students hike and camp in different elements, outings such as learning to ice fish with the Environmental Club, the opportunity to travel abroad and absorb culture, or participate in the both tech programs and learn about automotives and the trades. What our schools are offering kids goes beyond the classroom setting, and that's wonderful. The last thing I'll say is that it's been an incredible honor serving on the school board. It's a commitment that I don't take lightly. I believe in transparency, accountability, and collaboration. And I want to thank my neighbors for their support as I've navigated both the learning curve of becoming a member and also continuing to grow in the role of the past 7 years. I genuinely believe that together we can make a thoughtful, informed decision as we go. Thank you. Perfectly for your time. It's our timer, yeah. I nailed it.
Okay, are there any questions for Brandy? Just raise your hand and I'll. David?
Can you say a little bit more about the K-8 alternative school idea?
I can speak very high level to it as it's something that's newly developing, but essentially the way I think about it is kind of the cross between a homeschool environment with the support structure of a vendor coming in and offering the curriculum for them. So for me, I give so much respect for families that choose to homeschool. I think it's a big endeavor and it could be scary. And I think this program will offer families that support that maybe don't want their child in a traditional classroom setting. But this alternative school will set them up with a classroom right in their own home and give them the support to still get everything they want out of maybe what they're not getting in that classroom. So it's similar to homeschooling, but it will be through the elementary school.
So it'll be through the elementary school, but it will take place in people's homes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Brandy? Okay.
Thank you.
So next we have Catherine McGuire.
Hi, you can call me Katie actually. I moved to Barnstead in 2021. I have 4 kids. The youngest is 7, the oldest is 20. My husband and I own a electrical contracting business. I started volunteering in my kids' schools when my oldest was 5, so 15 years ago. That was in a different town. And I have volunteered weekly. I'm not going to say since then, there have been some gaps, but for many years. And I also sat on the board of several nonprofits and formed a nonprofit. I do a lot of volunteering, have done a lot of volunteering in schools over the years. And I really enjoy doing that. I love to see what's going on. I feel like as a parent, we don't get all the information unless we're right there, and a lot is missed. When I first moved to Barnstead in 2021, I took a bit of a hiatus, and I felt like there wasn't a lot of transparency going on. I wasn't getting the information. I was left wondering what was going on. And this past year, I was able to get back into the school and start volunteering. I've been in the elementary school every week this year, and it's eye-opening. opening. I have a lot of respect for the teachers, really. They are up against it for sure. But I think that one of the most important things that we can do as a community is support the schools and our kids with what we don't have, especially in Barnstead, a heck of a lot of other things to be worried about. I know we do have other things to worry about, but we're a small town and that's one of our main things. And I'd just like to get more involved. I feel like it has been difficult at times to get more involved. I really had to push to get into the school and just to help. I mean, I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes, but I want to hear about what's going on, not just from my kid 6 months later. So transparency is really important to me. Supporting the teachers is really important to me. I've been very happy with my kids' teachers, but I haven't always been happy with what has been going on in the bigger picture. And I think a lot of parents feel that way. So that's kind of my impetus for running for school board. I want to open more communication. I hope that that's possible. And I love what's been going on with the addition to the school. I support that. I wasn't aware of that alternative school that you mentioned. I love that idea, but just getting more information out to the parents, to the community, and I feel like it's not a battle, because I do know that a lot of people are upset about the money. But
Okay, thank you. So now we have 5 minutes to ask questions. Go ahead, Sherry.
As a candidate for the Barnstead School Board, the role is to act as a governing body for the local school district, responsible for setting policy, managing district operations, and hiring the superintendent and negotiating teacher contracts. On that note, what would be a policy that you would like to establish, if you would?
well, I have to admit I'm not 100% positive what are the what's allowable for the school board to do, but say that say that anything's allowed. I would say one thing is changing up budget items to make it more realistic for our school. For instance, we have open positions at the school, and my personal opinion is we have open positions because the pay is too low. But if we have, I believe we currently have 6 open positions for paraprofessionals, and they're sorely needed at the school. Couldn't we instead restrict that to 4 positions and pay them a little bit more? That's the kind of thing I'm interested in looking into.
Okay. Thank you. As you know, the taxpayers are gonna take a big hit directly due to the school this year, some $3 million. What I gather is somewhere around $3 a thousand hit on the tax rate. The net statewide average student to teacher ratio is about 12 to 1. In Barnstead, it's 9.5 to 1. So what, if anything, would you be in support of doing, assuming that discrepancy isn't backfilled by students coming from other districts? What would you be willing to do to bump that number up to a more average level?
That's very tough, because when you put the numbers out like that, it does sound like a problem. But when you go into the school, my inclination is to say, oh, well then let's get rid of some teachers, let's combine classes. But when I go into that school, I see kids, the behavior is a problem. Making the classes larger is gonna cause the other kids, all the kids, to not get the education they need. I think some kind of support, some structure to be able to support behaviors more might be a trickle-down effect to be able to allow us to enlarge the class sizes. Because you're right, I think that, it does sound more ideal to have maybe a 13 to a class. That seems, reasonable to me. But realistically, sometimes, if you go and spend a day at that school, you might say to yourself, I don't know if they can do that. We need to get these behaviors under control. I don't know what the answer to
follow-up? To dovetail off your previous statement about the paraprofessionals and the lack of those, do you think it would be feasible to perhaps fill those positions and put some of those paraprofessionals into classrooms where there are troubled students, and then combine those classrooms, laying off some teachers in order to fund the paraprofessional position?
Well, I like the first part of what you said. That's exactly what I think they need to do. I love that. Paraprofessionals is what's needed to help. I don't know about laying off teachers. I mean, from what I understand, the younger grades don't even have a music teacher right now. I mean, I think music is pretty important. I don't know what else we're missing at the school, but, I mean, maybe they could shift positions around, you know, because maybe we do have too many classroom teachers, not enough something else, but I don't know. We're not, in my opinion, we're not in a position to lay off teachers, but if we could take a hit for a couple of years, bring in some paras, maybe, there's not gonna be something we can do in here. We need to get things under control.
Thank you.
Time for a quick one. Ann?
Just to piggyback off that, 3 9s in a grade level is 27 students. That would be a 13 and a 14. I taught kindergarten for 30 years, and we never had below 20 in a classroom. If there are behavior issues, then that's a different position. Or what? Oh, the 5. Thank you.
I hate to do that, but there's a lot of people up here.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Start adding 8 times.
Yeah.
How many people up there.
There's other people around, we can get to that.
You can corner them during break. Okay. Andrew Harris.
Yes, hi. Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrew Harris. I've lived here in the town since 2017 when my wife and I bought our house here. We have 2 daughters. One of them is in 1st grade here at Barnstead Elementary School, and my youngest is going to be attending kindergarten here in this coming year. I am running for school board because I am looking for more accountability within the school board. I want more accountability with the superintendent. I want to be able to monitor and understand and look at what is working in the school and what is not working in the school. And we have had a massive upgrade to our school at the cost of about $25 million. It does affect the people of this town, especially the people that don't have kids in the school anymore. As Ben mentioned, we have roughly a 9-to-1 ratio in our teachers. And I would like to find a happy median where we have around the 11 to 12 students per room per teacher. My mother was a special education teacher for Exeter School District. She did IEPs, and I understand what a lot of teachers and a lot of special needs teachers go through. And I've seen firsthand what they deal with at home after leaving the school. I've heard what happens within those classrooms that more difficult students are in. My biggest thing though is with accountability. I want to make sure that the money that is used in the school is being used appropriately. I do not want to pay more taxes if the school is not functioning properly. I want a lean school that is appropriate to the size in which our students are coming in and leaving. I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Andrew?
The same
Hi,
question.
Good to meet you.
The same question. I mean, 11 is almost a pipe dream in most communities that have hundreds of
Yes.
thousands of people. So to say 11 or 10 or 9, you know, is wonderful, but at what expense? You know, if every grade level has 3 teachers per grade level, but could be 2 13s or 2 14s or 2 15s, which is still well under what an average classroom is nationwide, then you cut, by doing that, you cut a teacher per grade level, and even if you hire an aide to help the 2, you're still saving at least half a salary. And, you know, I never advocate for cutting teachers because I was a teacher myself. However, at the expense of having 3 full-time teachers, each with 9 students in a class, and then saying they're not doing well, there's a problem. I think also having support for curriculum. Nobody's talked about curriculum. Curriculum needs to be supported, not adding new curriculum or changing the curriculum to some different program that's not gonna support the students and the teachers who are in the schools, you know, but to support the teachers and help them with the curriculum.
So when my daughter started going to school last year, she started kindergarten, we had asked her kindergarten teacher what curriculum they were starting, for instance, and they were starting a completely new curriculum right off the bat. No one had used it in the school. There was no testing, no nothing. I want to get to a point where the school is testing something before it goes and implements it across the board. I would rather have a single teacher go, okay, let's see how this works with our students, and if it doesn't work, we shouldn't use it. When it comes to the size of the classrooms, I can understand wanting a little bit larger school in order to cut back on the amount of teachers that we have. I understand that. I think that you do and you can lose a little bit of teacher on student quality there, but having that reduction in cost can help the school in other areas. It was mentioned that we do not have a music teacher for one of our grades or for multiple grades in the school. You use that money and you funnel it into another program. If we do not have things like music or name a specialty that should be taught or used to be taught in the school, that should be brought back. Those things should be in our school. I would like to see our school be the best small community school in the state. If we can get to that point, we're doing good. I would love to see charter school students come in, because what that means is it means more money for our school, and it allows us to do more with it. Any other questions? I'll take it.
So you mentioned accountability. What specifically would you do to bring accountability to the school board?
So I had heard last year that there was some issues with the superintendent of the school, and when parents had shown up to the school board in order to talk to the school board about these issues that had occurred, nothing happened with the superintendent. There was nothing that occurred that made the people happy about going to the school board saying and complaining that we have an issue. I want to be able to approach this and say, we have an issue, we need to solve it, or you're fired. There's enough of the piddling around and not being, gentle with this. The parents are our supervisors, basically, and we're the supervisors to the superintendent. We're elected to that position. We need to hold the people that we hire accountable for the things that they do or not do, or the way that the school is being run, the test scores, the teachers that are not performing correctly. They need to be let go and new teachers brought in.
That was perfect timing.
I tried. Two.
And there's 5 people running. You said 2 open positions.
Maybe next year. Who knows?
Okay, so Dr. Ian Carmen.
Didn't realize that. Come on.
Well, thanks for the introduction and good evening. My name's Ian Harmon. I've lived in Barnstead with my wife and kids since 2015. I have a background in higher education. I've been a dean for 5 years. I've worked in higher ed for 20. Have a wealth of kind of educational leadership expertise. I have a master's in higher ed and an MBA, and then recently got a doctorate in education. So, one thing I appreciate what everybody sort of talked about. I think what I'm going to focus on and why I'm running has to do with student achievement. This is a central sort of role in what I do every day as a dean. I focus on how students are performing. If we notice behaviors that are kind of counter to academic success, that's where I provide interventions, develop programming to rectify those behaviors. And it's led to some really sort of great outcomes for the college I work at. Increased retention rates, increased graduation rates, fewer students on probation, or academic probation, and when that happens, students are able to get financial aid, and that's obviously a big reason why most students in this country afford college is federal financial aid. So, I've been to some school board meetings, I've done some research on STAR testing, and seen sort of a concerning, downward trend in performance. I think some of it is we're not sure how much is relative and related to COVID, with learning loss that happened, and particularly with the social integration components of students in formative years and the impact of that on their learning capabilities. So for me, I think that would really be an area that I'd want to see improved. I have a vested interest. My kids are, one's in school now, and my daughter's going to kindergarten in the fall. So, I'm a lifelong learner. I strongly believe in education, and education's the single greatest economic mobilizer for our kids, and that's where I think a lot of our focus should be centered, and where mine would be centered as a school board. So, that's my intro.
Thank you. Okay, 5 minutes for questions. Go ahead, Nancy.
What type of programs have you initiated for the problem of behavioral students?
For behavioral students, behavior is sort of outside my realm. I'm an academic dean that deals with academic performance, but I had, 5 or 6 years as a dean of students at a college I was at before as well. I'm a firm believer in a good balance between restorative practices and accountability and consequences, especially through the K-8 years. Most of my work's been centered in higher ed, adult learners, and the consequences are a little more severe, obviously, because they're adults. So anytime we can provide role modeling for younger kids, I think that's one way to rectify behavior. I think a lot of it, I know that I was at a board meeting last week and they were talking about the Capturing Kids' Hearts initiative as well. And I think being more immersed in the classes and challenging kids academically will help if they're focusing more on learning and less on, kind of adverse behavior. So.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Another question has to do with professional development. It's very easy to say test scores, test scores, test scores, but if you're not supplying the professional development for the teachers to make sure they understand the curriculum and how to present it, training and so on, is that part of your vision as well?
Yeah, I think it's one part of it for sure. You need to make sure that, educators know how to educate and they continue getting development to be as effective as possible. And I think the other part of that is ensuring that they're resourced to do their jobs correctly. I don't think it's within the purview of a school board to get in the weeds with how teachers are teaching, but if there are barriers to them being able to do their jobs, I think it is within the purview of the school board to mitigate those as much as possible. And it doesn't always come in through like a financial lens.
Dawn had a question.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Historically, we have had more parent involvement at the elementary school. And as a former volunteer, I can say that emphatically is true. With your work experience, do you think you could offer to this community to help get parents more involved? Because when parents are more involved, behaviors are less problematic.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I don't think that that ends in higher ed. I deal with parents every day. I have hard conversations with parents every day. We have, at our school, we have a parents' Facebook page. I'm an active participant there. I just posted yesterday, providing updates on our registration process for fall. If parents don't know, because we all know that a kid may stretch the truth a little. I think one of mine's done that once or twice. But again, that doesn't end at the college level, right? So I think families need to be informed, families need to be engaged, and I think a lot of that stems with appropriate communication that's transparent.
Elaine.
I have a curiosity question.
Okay.
Who decided that 9 kids in a classroom was okay?
I don't know that anybody up here can answer that. I think that, the people that are running right now have not been on the school board.
I will say that I review the U.S. World and News reports on schools all the time. And when I looked today, it had Barnstead at a 12-to-1 ratio. I don't know if that's outdated or not, but I think that that's worth noting.
Got time for one quick one. Sherry.
I just have to go back to where I was, sorry.
Hello.
Communication. So you talked specifically in regards to following up with her question involving more parents. I couldn't agree more. Parents are the key, especially with behavioral problems. How would you go about, for example, communicating better to the parents of the elementary school kids to get them more involved?
I think, I've gone to probably the last 6 months worth of board meetings, and I think I've been the only person that's been showing up. I think it's really critical to, again, I have friends, that are my son's parents and everything, and I don't know, I think rallying people around to have an active voice, we all have a civic responsibility to do what's best for our kids. Sorry.
You guys are doing good with the questions. I appreciate it. School district moderator, John Savage.
Good evening, John Savage. I've lived in Barnstead almost 20 years. I have, for my entire adult life, been a participant in public service. I think that we all have an obligation to give back to our communities, and so I see the role of moderator as one of those things that I'm capable of doing, and so it's a way for me to step up and help my community. Education is very important to me. My background is as a music educator, so that's my degree. I actually don't work in education currently. I run a transit system, so I run a transit system for 3 cities in Maine right now. But I think that serving the public is very important. Serving my community is very important. I volunteered as a firefighter and EMT in this community for the last 17 years. Also served as the president of the Firefighters Association. Running meetings is something that I'm pretty well versed at. I've been running meetings since I was 14 years old. And so I enjoy running the meetings. I think that my personal philosophy is that every person in town has a right to participate, has a right to be treated with respect while they participate in our governance. I want to make sure that everything that we do at our school district meeting meets the criteria of the law, so that the decisions that are made there by the body hold, we don't end up opening ourselves up to any sort of litigation. So I try to make sure that we follow every rule to the best of our ability, and so I'd be honored to continue to serve in that role.
Okay, any questions for John? Guys are letting it off easy.
Are you the only one running for moderator?
Yes.
There's 2 separate
Sure, so, I've been the moderator for 2 years, so 1 term. I think that the challenge that we face is weather dependent, and so, if everyone remembers, last year we had some pretty significant weather, and while making the decision about whether we held a meeting or not, I think my number 1 concern was to make sure that everyone had an opportunity to participate, which is why we postponed, because I felt like the conditions in town and the roadway conditions were such that they were gonna keep people who wanted to participate from being there. So it's not a decision that I made lightly, but I spent a lot of time talking with the road agent, talking with the superintendent, trying to make sure that we had all the conditions right to make sure that everyone was safe while they came to the meeting, so.
Sharon? I'm just looking for a little bit more information on what exactly that role entails, and you touched on it a little bit, thank you. But if you could expand upon that for me.
Sure, so school district moderator is actually a much smaller position than town moderator. So school district moderator really only has to moderate the school district meeting. And so you take a class through the Secretary of State's office and you learn the rules. There's a handbook that's about, all of the rules for school district are the same rules that you use for town. So understanding the rules, preparing the agenda, meeting with the superintendent before the meeting, the school board before the meeting, make sure that, kind of work through the logistics of the meeting, and then on the day of, making sure that you run the meeting as best you can to the rules that are set by the state, and then also allowing the body is actually the one that sets all of the rules for how the meeting goes. So like, if you come to a school district meeting, I hand out a set of rules for the meeting, but those rules are actually just recommendations because the body actually sets how the meeting runs. So that's a New Hampshire state rule. So if the body said that we don't want to vote in that order, or we want to do something different, as long as it doesn't violate an RSA, then we would change the meeting to run that way, so.
Okay, so that is everybody that I have for the school. So we'll start with town positions. Elaine.
Yes.
Clifford is overseer, running for overseer of the public welfare.
Yeah, that's me.
You've got 3 minutes.
Huh?
3 minutes.
I've been the welfare officer in town for 18 years. I have to run every year. So for 18 years, you people have liked me. They continue to like me. I work within my budget. I don't overspend my budget. I try not to overspend my budget. And it's a very interesting job because you can't talk about it. So I go home, I talk in the mirror to myself. But there's nobody to talk to. Everything is very confidential. I've worked very hard at moving it away from town hall. We used to meet out here with clients in the hall. But people walking back and forth, and that's no confidentiality for families. So now I use my cell phone a lot. Catherine Jones is very nice about letting us be there. And we get a lot done privately, how it should be run. You know, nobody's entitled to look at my files unless you get a court order. Nobody's entitled to know who was in, who wasn't in. The girls in the office are fabulous. You couldn't get anything out of one of them. You know, they're just really good at confidentiality. I like my job, I want to keep my job. Please vote for me, thank you very much.
Okay, so 5 minutes for questions.
Yeah,
Just clarification, so what's the title of this?
overseer of public welfare,
Overseer of public welfare, what's your name again?
Elaine Swinfield,
Thank you.
same as it was yesterday.
Anyone else? Oh, Ethel?
Elaine,
I've heard some towns have a fair hearing process, and I'm wondering if you'd be open to that. It seems like it would protect the person in your position, or you, as
We have a
well,
fair, they have,
hold on a second,
okay,
as well as the person who wasn't happy with the decision you made.
they're not happy with the decision, then they can ask for their hearing, it's their right, under the law.
And how does that happen in Barnstead? Is there a
It
committee?
no, it comes back to, we get three welfare officers from outlying towns who come in and ask that their hearing officer. They hear the case, they read about the case, they make the decision. And they take up to a week to make the decision, not a problem.
I didn't know, I guessed that you had to go to the select board or something, I didn't know.
But what has nothing to do with welfare, that upsets a lot of them, but they're not entitled to, and you always thought they were entitled to look at my files. And you'd be like, looking at their body, and it's happening.
Are there any other questions?
What's funny?
So Elaine, I have another question. Now that the town is trying to make our website more efficient and more effective, I know that people applying for welfare through your office need to fill out an application. Does everybody fill one out, and could that be on the website to facilitate?
One of the
process?
reasons we don't put it on the website is because it requires too much information, I worry about their confidentiality. What's on the website, it's on the website forever.
No, to download it, okay, or, does everybody who applies fill out an application, is that the process?
They have to have an application, must be filled out completely.
So everybody, that's a requirement.
I sound like I'm really hard, I'm not. I'm a marshmallow.
You know, it would be, I think people would be interested in understanding some of the rules you have to work within. I mean, just, for example, the home ownership versus renting, took me years.
Well,
to understand.
homeowners, okay, renters get a bigger break than the homeowners do. 'Cause the renters promise to repay. The homeowners, we put a lien on their home after a certain amount of time that we give them to pay back. If they can't pay back, then put a lien on it. As scary as that sounds, we're not kicking anybody out, we're not putting anybody out on the street. If and when you ever sell your house, pay us back. But the renters, they get the walk away, they don't have it. They stay there on the last bit, but they'll pay, and they'll do this. They don't. No way you can make them. They're renters.
I have one more question.
Is it possible that the guidelines, there wouldn't be any names, just the general guidelines could be posted on the website, or the town website somewhere?
It's in the, it's, this, I think it's, 77 or 79 sections to the law. It's RSA 167. And it has all those, it has sections for the military, how we treat the military. It has a section for homeless, and what we do for the homeless, and on and on.
You know, that could
People
be-
with animals, and with the people without animals.
You know, that could be posted, that way people have a direction to go if they're looking. Right.
The easiest thing to do is call me, and I'll give you the information.
Okay, you're up.
I have one more thing I have to
You're
say.
done.
I get 1 second.
No, you do not. I haven't given one to anybody else, and I'm treating you all the
I just
same.
want to introduce the deputy, they let me have a deputy. John McCarthy.
the budget committee for 7 years. The reason why I'd like to serve for another 3 is because I see the town going through a lot of transition. A lot of things have been neglected over the years and pushed aside, and now we're paying for it. And the thing is that, unfortunately, the budget committee has limited powers. All we can do is recommend. Unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever you look at it, I'm still a citizen of this town, and I've brought up many issues on different occasions, and people have not liked and say I'm overstepping my bounds as a member of the budget committee. And I had to remind people that I was a citizen before I became a member of the budget committee. And I think that's why it's important that the people that are here should realize that they're a voice too. And we have to make everybody in this town accountable for the taxpayers. For example, a few years ago, we needed a new fleet of patrol cars. The select board decided, and the budget committee agreed, that we wouldn't do all 3 at the same time, because then they'll all run out at the same time. Right now, we're replacing most of the fleet of the DPW all at once. Why are we doing this when we know our taxes are going up? And can't we stagger things? And one thing that you have to remember when you're at town meeting, when somebody says it's no tax impact, that's not free money. That's money that's come from someplace else. Because I was kind of spoken to at one point, because I brought up the issue of the state legislature just increased this hotel and meal tax by 100% of what we usually get, which instead of $250,000 are going up to $500,000. And I brought it up to the once on Facebook, and I don't know if you saw that. And they said, they reminded me, well, we don't set the tax rate, the state does. Yeah, you're right, they do, but you're spending the money. And if the legislature wants to help us out and give us an extra $250,000 to help lower our taxes, we should have some input with that. The other thing that is coming down the road is with the open enrollment at the high school. Well, any money that's brought into the high school for open enrollment will be split between the 2 towns.
Your time's up.
Play some music.
Thank you.
Okay, Suzanne has a question.
Yes, can you finish explaining what open enrollment might mean? You're about to explain it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that there's a number of empty seats at the high school. And the thing is that you could bring in some kids into outside district schools if they would like to come in. And it wouldn't really cost the town, either town, any extra money except for a book. So, don't quote me exactly on the number, but it would be probably roughly around $15,000 per student. And that money would then be divided amongst towns. I know the school board has it, and the superintendent is still working on exactly how that money is going to be divided up and where it's going to go, because it's still in the early stages. But we've had a number of district towns that have, the kids have shown interest in going to the high school. And now with the starting of the football league at the high school, there's a lot of boys that would have liked to have gone to Prospect Mountain, but we never offered a high school, a football league. So my concern is with the open enrollment, if that money starts coming in, if it becomes unaccumulated funds, that is unassigned funds that goes right back into the town, it isn't gonna give us a tax break if we don't have any control over it. And I think the townspeople should be able to make a decision on whether or not we wanna help to take the amount of money that we get from the open enrollment to help pay off a portion of the bond every year, to help our taxes. I don't think that the select board should be sitting at and chomping at the bit and saying, oh, look what we're gonna get next year. Because the thing is that, you gotta remember that the high school at the end of their fiscal year, they may have some funds left over. Well, it's really not in their pocket, it's basically in the town's pocket, because they distribute the funds as they spend it. But over the 7 years I've been on the board, many years it's been $150,000 or $200,000 that is unencumbered funds that could have helped us lower our taxes, because my feeling is that when we voted for the school budget, and say it was $11 million, and they only spent 11.5, that if they have $500,000 left over, that should go back to the taxpayers. It shouldn't be used as a slush fund. So, that's how I answer your question.
I guess I'm just curious about the open enrollment. I have mixed opinions about, I think it might be good for the receiving school, but I'm not so sure it's good for the sending school. But anyway, I'm still trying to sort it all out. So
Well, the thing is with open enrollment, if you look at like Barrington, the kids there, they have a choice of now 4 high schools that they can go to, because they can take the first one. And the thing is that money that they would spend in their budget
I mean, my
just
kids like to go
is
around, so I
considerable.
do get that part of it. But yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Wayne? Okay.
Oh, is it one position or two, sir?
I mean, it's 2 school board positions.
No.
Budget, 2 budgets, so I know there's 2 people running there.
Thank you. Okay, so Tim E. is running for planning board.
As most of you know, I get started and somebody has to. So anyway, I'm a country boy. I've never lived in a city, so I have no idea what some of this stuff is going on. I don't want to know. I like what we have here. I know that the people here get to see where their money is spent. They get to go on ahead. You talk about taxation without representation. You guys represent those of you that speak out, do. Whether you have a full understanding, whether I have a full understanding, I'll guarantee you I don't. I'm retired now. So that's one reason why you might find me in different positions. To be a select person or a select board member, never would happen. But I can do some of these other positions where I can go on ahead and learn what's going on, and that's why I've done the planning board. I think, what is it, 4 years now? Went so fast, it's not funny. And so I have learned an awful lot, and I'd like to have 3 more years if my health will allow it. So that's why I'm again running for planning board, because there's a lot more to learn when you go to the laws and the legislature. That is very interesting. Didn't always have that growing up. And I'm going to sit down and let you ask any questions that you might have.
All right, Tim. You were under 3 minutes.
That's all.
Okay, any questions for Tim?
Again, 2 positions.
There's 2 positions and 4 people running.
Right. Thank you.
Go ahead, Sherry.
Since you've already served 4 years, 4
That is
terms?
correct.
4 years, okay. As a current planning board member, what are some of your goals moving forward that you'd like to see for the town of Barnstead?
One thing that I was tasked to do about 3 or 4 years ago was to do the CIP. And that was quite a learning experience, because I saw
Which stands for?
Capital Improvement Program. Linda's doing it as the head now. but we've had several people that have been very interested in it, and it definitely causes a lot of people a lot of pain, because, you know, you're looking at trying to bring in funds earlier so that you don't have such a tax burden at a later date. And so that's what a lot of the CIP does. And I've also learned a lot about the cisterns. We always had water systems where I grew up. So having cisterns for your main water system, that is amazing. And also to me is another thing, is the fact that, to me, this is a rural area. Why are they going on ahead and trying to urbanize it? It doesn't make sense to me. But I know other people have that, and I'm glad that they do. And if we go through several things, I've seen some projects that I wish to goodness sakes had never been passed, because it takes away the country and the springs here. You have a water system, bar none, on the East Coast. You just don't know. And I know there are people also dealing with watersheds here. That was a state affair. You never heard about it. So they are beginning to put that together. I never realized it. Okay? So I'm so pleased to see people stepping up. Again, it's not at the state level, it's at the local level. You know what I'm saying? So many things are at the local level. But once some of these things, I mean, rules have changed in like almost 75 years. I didn't grow up here. Now, am I answering your question?
Here's another question.
I have a question for you. Everybody in town, or a lot of people filled out a survey last year. What
Yes.
did people ask for?
People are asking to keep the country atmosphere. That's what, when they put the statistics together, and they are wanting to go on ahead and limit. Yes, there is a fight to have multiple level housing here. But how in the heavens are you gonna have it? You don't have a water system. You hear what I'm saying? Look at those things.
Any other questions for Tim?
I can tell you, it's a lively situation. To say the least. I love it.
Okay. No more questions for Tim? Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
So, Elizabeth Madden, you're up.
Thank you. I'm Elizabeth Madden, I'm running for planning board. I'm a little bit about myself. I'm a retiree. I have over 40 years of municipal government experience in my past. I've actually been on a planning board before as a voting member in another community. And I liked it, I enjoyed it, and did a lot of good. And that was on and off over a period of years in a large town that I used to work in. I was the assistant town administrator at that time. And in between town administrators, I was the acting town administrator, and in that particular town on the planning board, they had, in accordance with the RSAs, they chose to have a voting position for the town administrator, so I got to fill in and learned a lot. I am a strong believer of following the law, following the local regulations. I feel the planning board should, and the applicants should. And I have an interest in being on the planning board to assist in whatever way I can. I think I would do a good job, and thank you all for me.
Done?
I'm done.
Lizzie.
Okay. Okay, any questions for Lizzie? Steve?
So the state has passed, ordinances or statutes which kind of override, local, zoning control. Just wanted to get your feelings on that, your thoughts on that. You know, they're allowing ADUs on single-family house lots and, apartments by right, even though we may not want them here. How do you feel about that? You think that that's a bad thing for the town of Barnstead?
I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing for the town of Barnstead, but I think it has to be, I haven't read the law on that particular, issue. I remember when it first came into effect years back, a few years back. I think it's good in a good location. Some people don't like them, and they won't do that. It's a mixed feel.
What's an ADU?
That's an accessory dwelling unit, which would allow you to put another house on a single-family house lot,
A small.
as long as you live in one of them.
Or perhaps construct like an apartment over your garage to rent out to a relative or something. Not necessarily a separate structure to be built.
Isn't it true that in Barnstead we've always been able to do that for family members?
Yes. Article 5, zoning ordinance. Any other questions? Any other planning board questions? Go ahead.
Will you still make your bread too?
We're still doing bread.
Tim has a question.
How about short-term rentals? I know that Meredith is really grappling with people buying properties and making a business out of it. And I know we've had that come across us.
Okay.
Do you have opinion on
Go ahead, Lizzie.
Would you repeat that, please?
that? The short-term rentals.
Yes.
Okay. Should people come in from out of town, buy properties to have short-term rentals, and that's their business? They don't live here?
So, what's the zoning on that, actually? I know it's an issue in town, and a lot of people are in favor of it, and a lot of people are not.
It's a ballot question this year.
That's where I was going.
Oh,
And
and you can get those by the door, we printed them out.
Yes. If you haven't seen it, read it.
okay,
I know it's an issue everywhere, though. The town that I grew up in is having a pretty bad time with it. Because things can always get out of control if you have rowdy people who are, there for the weekend or the week or whatever it is. But I think as long as the regs are strong to allow certain things and not allow other things, and as long as it can be enforced, I think it would help.
okay. Now, one quick question. So. Okay, I'm just gonna interrupt on the planning board. There's a handout over there, there's 4 zoning questions. One has to do with ADUs to bring the current zoning in line with the state ADU. The second one is regarding short-term rentals. The town attorney has worked with us on this for the past 4 months. There's also going to be an application form and any short-term rental will have to be inspected by the code enforcement officer and health safety. We're not asking them to come before the planning board, and the permit is only good for 3 years. And the second two questions, 3 and 4, are housekeeping questions. So if you wanna talk to me at break about the questions, we'll do it then. Okay. Nancy Hart for select board, for 3 years. And there's, 2 seats for 3 years open.
Hi, everybody, I'm Nancy Hart. Just a little bit about me. I've been married for 38 years. I have 2 daughters and 5 grandchildren. We've lived here in Barnstead for 7 years now, and honestly, we love this small town. This is why we moved here. We want the small town atmosphere. I hold a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and I retired 9 years ago from the Peabody Police Department after serving 29 years with the city. I am currently the chairperson for the Concord Regional Crime Line, and I volunteer with the Old Home Day Committee and the 300th Anniversary Committee. I also volunteer for Camp Resilience, which is a nonprofit that helps veterans and first responders. I'm hardworking, I have a common sense approach, and I'm honest. I'm not afraid to speak my mind and to point out when something is not right or would not be beneficial for this town. I'm outgoing and willing to talk to anyone and actually listen to them. I believe everyone has a right to be heard, and I will always make myself readily accessible to members of the community. Through my training, experience, and education, I feel I am qualified to serve as a Board of Selectmen member. We have a budget here that needs to be adhered to, and try to find a way to stop our tax rate from skyrocketing. This issue really affects our seniors and people who have lived in this town for decades. And I just say, imagine owning a home here, and you own it, but you can't afford to live here because your tax rate is so high. That's happening. I want to really look at ways to lower our tax rate, which is really, really difficult in this town. I believe competitive wages are critical to all employees to maintain a quality workforce. We've lost numerous employees based solely on what their pay rate is here over the years. We lost our highway department a few years ago, everybody remembers that, due to pay increases not being met, and this town ended up paying substantially for this. Now the police department is actually going through the same process. We don't have enough officers to cover shifts. I realize that the budget committee proposed raising their rates, but this isn't enough to entice quality officers. I don't think our safety should be jeopardized by paying low wages. We are so short-handed that we need to hire the sheriff's department or other neighboring towns, and this is costing us $115 an hour. Now let's talk about the hiring of a full-time police chief and fire chief. Honestly, I don't understand why we're moving in this direction. We don't have any statistics to show that we need this. I have read the report from the Public Administration Committee and seen nothing to support this. Calls at the PD have gone down in 2025 for both arrests and call for services for our population. Our population has not grown significantly to warrant this change. Why not keep a part-time police chief and a part-time fire chief and lower the rate and hire more officers and more firefighters at a higher rate to cover our streets and shifts? I'm sorry.
You were close.
I almost got that.
Okay. So are there any questions for Nancy Hart?
Would you finish your speech?
Sure will. So why not keep a part-time police chief and a part-time fire chief at a lower rate and hire more officers and firefighters at a higher rate to cover our streets and shifts? We're going from paying a part-time police chief $88,000 a year and now budgeting a full-time interim chief at $130,000 a year. I have a 2025 wage study that shows that none of our neighboring towns are being paid that amount. In closing, I would just like you to know that if you elect me, I will be transparent, open, and available to all citizens of this community at any time. And as a taxpayer myself, I will have yours and the town's best interest in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions for Nancy? Go ahead.
Are you still employed by the police department here in town?
I am at the moment, but probably not for much longer.
Meaning, when the election comes up, you would be done? I just look at the conflict of
Yes.
interest.
Yes, there will
So this is your first time, running, is that correct?
No, I ran last year.
Okay, great. So what are some of the goals that you would like to achieve, aside from what you said with your opening statement, that you think would be beneficial to the taxpayers here in Barnstead?
We need to really try to figure out how to get our taxes to stop going up.
Spending money.
Stop spending money, honestly, Elaine, that is it, we need to stop spending money. Some of the stuff that I think we've spent money on in this town is just absolutely crazy. We need to just, I mean, everybody has a budget, we have a household budget, we need to live by that budget, and you can't go over it.
Thank you.
You were talking about, eliminating waste basically in the fire department and the police station. Is it possible to do it in this building as well?
Eliminate waste in this building also?
Yeah, certain people have had some issues with certain people, and it seems like they're still here and not being held accountable for.
Well, I think
their
being held
jobs.
accountable is a huge thing. Everybody should be held accountable for what they're doing. And if you're not, then that's a problem. I don't have a problem at all telling somebody when they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Go ahead, David.
Generally, when people think about paying taxes, I think people feel like, the more that you earn, the bigger share of the taxes you should pay. In New Hampshire, it's the reverse. The more that you earn, the lower share of taxes you pay.
Right.
And New Hampshire is one of the worst states in the country because of that.
Yeah.
That has to be changed at the state.
Right.
But is there a role for the select board in working with our state representatives to see that they vote to change things around?
I would always work with the state representative, and like I said before, I don't have a problem speaking with anybody. I would even go to the State House and petition and try to get our taxes lowered any way possible.
And would you be in favor of the select board inviting the state representatives to meet with them once or twice a year?
Sure, absolutely.
Set out at the beginning
The more
of the
people you
session?
can talk to and try to hash this out, the better it is for our community.
When I was in the state,
Go ahead, Anna.
when I was in the State House, they had that bill to take the $5 off of the license plate registration. And we weren't in favor. I went and spoke to the select board and had them go to the hearing. That bill didn't pass. Because there was a show of strength. All 5 of them were there.
Linda, you're gonna have to wait. Okay. Gotta be quicker next time. Paula Penny is running for select board.
Yes, hi, my name's Paula Penny. I have lived in Barnstead my whole life, so that's 64 years. I work for the state of New Hampshire. I've been employed there for 40 years, and I'm still working full time. I have served on the select board previously. I would like to do that again. I think that we've talked a lot about the school things previously here and things being done at the school level and how that affects our taxes. I think we have a lot going on in the town as well. We do have to live within our budget. That being said, I know we all know, I know, our roads are, our highway department has really struggled over the past years. I know we have equipment that's really in not good, condition. We have a new public works director. I think we really need to, I think it's important for the board to hire good people to run our departments, and I think there's been a lot of progress in that. I think once we hire those people, it's the board's job to oversee them, but not micromanage them. Let them do their job, report to you about their job, but not be a micromanager. I think that has discouraged and caused some of our employment problems here in town. So I would like to see some improvement in that area. I would agree with Nancy. I don't believe we need a full-time police chief or fire chief. I think we need strong officers and firemen, and I think we've done fine with the situation of a part-time one now. And wages are obviously a big part of trying to keep good employees here. It's a hard balance, but it is all about balance. You know, you can't fix all the things. You have to spend a certain amount of money to make these departments run, and then try to find ways to cut in other places. It's not an easy balance for any board, but I certainly would like to work on that, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead, Linda. The state of New Hampshire is seeing a reduction in younger people and an increase in older people. And it's hurting the older people with taxes. So having a full-time police chief and a part-time full-time police and fire would add an enormous amount of money to the budget. I think it's about $300,000 that it's adding this year. How do you feel about going to other communities, kind of like what we're doing with the school, and thinking about having cooperative agreements to kind of share services?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I think we do have some of that. I mean, I know we have mutual aid, you know, with our fire departments and our ambulances and such. I think it's a great idea, and I think it's really good to look into. I think there are some things that there are complications to it, you know what I mean, when it comes to like formal agreements. But the more that towns can help each other and share things, it's beneficial to both towns and all towns. And you're right, and New Hampshire is an aging state. I really feel strongly about the seniors and the veterans in our town being able to stay in their homes. And the tax situation certainly is not helpful to that. And I think anything we can do to speak with our legislature to get them to pass things on the state level to help with that. Anything that we can do here locally, you know, for abatements and those kind of things that we can do within the law, which of course is a state thing as well. I'm all in favor of that.
Go ahead.
So you said you served before on the Board of Selectmen,
I
is that
did.
correct?
Yes.
How many years did you serve?
I served a partial term. I was appointed to fill a vacancy, and then I ran and I served for 3 years.
So, having stepped away and now stepping back in to reprise that role again, what do you feel that you're bringing to the table, that you might be able to help resolve some of the issues that maybe weren't addressed last time?
Sure. I think it's important to have all different points of view, to bring different kinds of ideas. I think a good mix of a board is good. Men, women, retired people, working people, everybody that has different points of view that can try to help solve some of the important issues that we have going on in town. I think everybody, you know, I think it's good to have that kind of diversity on a board. I'm certainly not afraid to share my opinion. I think the opinions need to be, I know I've heard a few people talk about transparency, and I think that's important. I think it needs to not be selective transparency. I think it needs to be open transparency. It's not selective. That being said, there are certain things that are non-public by law, and I think we definitely need to respect that. And I don't think that always happens either, but, I think it's good to bring, I'd like to see more people come to meetings, and I have seen an increase in attendance to meetings, which is really great to hear what's going on in individual people's lives to help see where the board should be moving.
Go ahead, Linda.
I attended the fire, police, and town administrator meetings in the fall for I wanna say half of them. My husband attended all but two. And what we found was that, one of the suggestions that we made was to hire a, company that would deal with HR issues. Because I think that would alleviate some of the issues that we currently have with some of the employees. And get some of the personnel that is in town hall out of that position. You really do need to have HR, working with employees for legal purposes, for, they just have a, they just have a foundation for that is, I think, lacking in a town. You just don't have the experience.
I think I had heard that as well, that they were looking into, at one of the board meetings, they were talking about, looking into the outsourcing the HR part of that.
Okay, thank you. You're gonna have to finish that one later. Okay, so the last person on the list is myself.
Who's kind of Nancy?
Somebody who has no idea how to run one of these things.
So my name is Nancy Carr. I'm running for town moderator, which is a 2-year position. I have been your town moderator since 2020. I was sworn in the day before town meeting. And that was right when COVID was blooming and I had to make the decision, and we had town meeting, and thank God we did. Just because of all the weird stuff that happened. But anyways, that's not all that important right now. I grew up in this town. I attended Barnstead Elementary. At that time, we went to Pittsfield High School. I spent most of my 20s in the area. I left and went out west, and then I came back. And when I came back in '04, I started getting involved in town again. And one of the first ways was to get involved in Old Home Day. Then I was banned by Merleys to get involved with planning board. And when they ban you, they don't let go. And then I was involved as a ballot clerk in the elections. And so I have had many years of experience as a ballot clerk. Then, when Chris Hipkiss knew he was going to be getting done moderator, he started training me and I was the assistant moderator for over a year, just learning about running the elections, dealing with the people, understanding the laws. And then when Chris decided to retire, he had had enough, I ran. And so this is a very important position to me. This is where you have a say in the government of the town. And so I love it when people show up to vote. I love it when people show up at town meeting. I'd like to see the room up there to overflow and have us be using other multiple rooms for town meeting. And sadly, we don't see that happen. Sometimes there's under 200 people at town meeting. It breaks my heart that these two people are making decisions for over 4,000 people in town. Think about it. So this form of self-government is very important to me. I've been involved in community service for a few decades. I'm a 4th generation poll worker. I had a great grandfather who was a moderator. My grandfather worked as a gatekeeper. My mother was a ballot clerk for over 40 years.
Time's up, Nancy.
Aye, okay.
Does anyone have any questions for Nancy?
Good job.
Yes.
Go ahead, Elaine.
How will SB2 affect you?
Barnstead is still a traditional town meeting town. If it changes, then being town moderator, the meeting would change before town voting. The deliberative session is what it's called. I've talked to other people in towns that have switched and they hate it and they want to go back to traditional town meeting. Any other questions?
And so this is for how many years?
2 years.
2 years.
I have a goal. I want to do 4 presidential elections and then step away. Because I don't want to be up there doddering. I want to step away while I'm.
Are you trying anybody?
Nobody has come forward yet.
Are you welcome?
It's a great position, but it's also thankless at times. I mean, there's a lot of prep work to an election. They have training, and we in turn are supposed to train ballot clerks. They can send us to 2 or 3 trainings. There's working with the town clerk as far as prepping. We have new ballot counting machines this year, so we're excited about that. So you don't have that old, slow DOS machine anymore. We also have 3 new poll books, so we're still using the traditional way, but we will have some of the new ones as we start using them, and you use your driver's license to sign in. And there will be somebody there, it's not, free for all. And then we have a new accessible voting system. So we have a lot of new equipment this year. So we're learning, we're pretty excited, and if something goes wrong, please be patient. And we are voting up at the school. In front of the school is all handicap parking. If you cannot make that walk, you can drive around the school, and you can use the back entrance. So that will be available, but the front of the school is all handicap. There should be spaces across where the church used to be, yeah, church to me. And then there's the back 40 parking lot, for those of you that like to walk.
So you are talking about voting and the election thing, is that your job, being town moderator? Oh.
Yes,
It's not just at the time.
no, it's a responsibility of the town moderator. There's a lot of time, I'm semi-retired, so I have the time to do the training, to do all the prep work to get ready for this. There could be over 20 people that the town moderator supervises, that I supervise, coordinate, set up to come in and help. How are we doing on time?
Any more questions?
Okay, I think we're done.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank you, Nancy.
So-
You're welcome, Mike.
And we'll take a break. How long, Danielle?
10, 15 minutes?
15-minute break?
Yep. There's refreshments over here. You can help yourselves, and the Girl Scouts are selling cookies.